And Bitcoin we can think of as kind of a decentralized megalopolis. It's reached a scale of 2 trillion. Its annual market cap value on trend is increasing at like 800 billion. So that's kind of a GDP. And it's going to quickly grow doing compounding. This year, it might grow 1 trillion. There are only 7 cities that have a larger GDP than that: New York, Tokyo, LA, San Francisco, Seoul, Paris, and Chicago. Bitcoin is a meta network of power laws. And we know about the power law of price, but there's a power law of adoption. There's a power law of hash rate. And there are other power laws that you can find when you look at things like the distribution of wallet sizes. So it's a metaphor, but it works well to describe a vast, interconnected, influential digital ecosystem. You didn't need Chat 5 to realize that. Even Chat 4 realized that. It's also the most valuable software code ever, perhaps. Windows and Office, that's 2 pieces. Actually, that's a lot more than 2, right? Office is, I don't know, 6, at least 4. Over 3 decades, they acquired 2 trillion in revenue. So many millions of lines of code. Google search and ads, 2 trillion. It took them 2.5 decades. Bitcoin, clearly the most disruptive, reached 2 trillion market cap in 1.6 decades. It's very, very compact code. I forget the numbers, like 30,000 lines early on or something. You may know, but it's quite a bit larger now, but it's still very, very small compared to these others. I think this is my next to last slide. This is a cosmology analogy. So a little background, this pie chart. We have known about dark matter, or at least the first discovery of dark matter was in the 1930s by Fritz Zwicky, looking at the Coma cluster of galaxies, and he saw that the velocities were much too high. And so he said there has to be more matter in there somehow. The matter that you could infer from the galaxies and how bright they were and the mass to light ratios of stellar material, came up short. So he said there's dark matter. He called it Dunkelmaterie. He used the German for that when he first defined it. And it was confirmed in the 70s with galaxies, the way they rotate, that they rotate a lot faster on their edges, including our own Milky Way, than you would expect. And we've now learned that the ratio of dark matter to normal matter, which is just the atoms that you and I are made of and that the stars are made of, is a ratio about 5 to 1. And it's detected in the cosmic microwave background details as well, with the same ratio of 5 to 1. Now, dark energy was something that was first postulated by Einstein over 100 years ago. And when he wrote the equations of general relativity, there was no cosmological constant term. But he later added that term because he wanted to try and create a model of a static universe. It turned out to be unphysical because if you just perturb it slightly, it has to either expand or collapse. And it was shown in 1929 by Hubble. The Hubble Space Telescope is named after him, that the galaxies in general are receding from one another, that the universe is expanding. So we've known that for nearly 100 years. And the first solution of Einstein's equations of general relativity was in the early 1920s, and then independently, somewhat later in the 1920s, by Friedman first and later Lemaitre. And so we've known that the universe is expanding since then. And then the question has been, what's it made of, right? When I got my PhD in astronomy, knew there was dark matter. We knew there was normal matter. We didn't know how much dark matter. We didn't know how much really matter there was in the universe exactly. We didn't know if there was enough to halt the expansion. We were that uncertain. We didn't know the Hubble constant to a factor of 2. Now it's all known really accurately because of the very high quality instrumentation, both ground-based and satellite. And only in 1998 was it discovered that the cosmological constant term that Einstein had put in 100 years ago was actually correct. He added it to the equation of general relativity, and it represents a minimum energy of every unit volume of space. It's called dark energy because it has negative pressure, so it behaves unlike ordinary matter. And it's actually a kind of anti-gravity. And it wasn't important early on, but as the universe has expanded, our universe gets thinned out. So the dark matter becomes more sparse and the normal matter becomes more sparse, less dense on average. The galaxies are just there, they're gravitationally bound, but the space between the galaxies grows. And every unit of that has dark energy assigned to it. Every meter has about the equivalent of 4 proton rest mass energy. And by now, it turns out from the results in 1998, which have now been repeatedly confirmed, that it's about 70% of everything. If you use E equals mc squared, that dark energy content of 4 GeV. And so I make an analogy with Bitcoin, fiat, and gold. And the analogy with gold is normal matter. It's ordinary matter. And it was known first. It was the first kind of standard money. I mean, we had seashells with sort of money, 0.0 or grain or other things. But gold has been around monetarily for thousands of years. It dilutes relative, with expansion because its supply increases. It's tangible, so it's like ordinary matter in that sense. And then I make the analogy of fiat money with dark matter. It's elusive but pervasive. You don't see it, but it kind of runs the world, right? It sits there on ledgers, mostly as digital. It dilutes. It's kind of hidden in plain sight because it's digits on balance sheets in commercial and central banks. Dark energy does not dilute. Every unit volume has it. So over time, its dominance grows. When the universe was 1/10 its size, dark energy wasn't important. When the universe is twice as old as it is now, it'll be even more important. So Bitcoin is like that. It's displacing dark matter and normal matter, or gold and fiat, as it were, with time. Now, we're not at this stage with Bitcoin where we're 69%. Right now, we're very small. But this is, if you make this analogy, this is the direction. The dark energy eventually wins out. So when could it start to win out? Well, we're 2 trillion cap, roughly 1.8 trillion. And the US M2 money supply is around 22 trillion. When will they cross? So that would be, in the analogy, it would be dark energy catching up to dark matter, the fiat. And gold, it's going to be a somewhat different date. It's going to be sooner. But it looks like 2036, if you have 7% annual growth of M2, which is the long-term growth rate, and if we go on the power law, we could catch up to the US money supply sometime in the late 2030s, and the global money supply in the 2040s. The global money supply is about 5 times larger than the US money supply. I think that's my last slide.
Awesome. I love it. Twitch, you're a stoic. There was so much in there. I'm always overwhelmed to say the least. But it's really cool to see that how Bitcoin behaves. There's actually frameworks to think about that, and there's actually patterns there that we see, that there's actually some mathematics behind that. Because I think a lot of people feel it's random. They feel it just happens how it happens, and I think it's good for a lot of people to see it's not as random as it might seem to be.
Indeed.
We have, as you know, one question to ask each and every one of my returning guests on the podcast, and the question is, what have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance on the podcast?
Oh. I'm so absorbed in Bitcoin. Well, I do keep up with AI, and I now use AI. I first programmed a computer around 1969, 1970, assembly code on an IBM small mainframe. And I was a Fortran programmer for many years, and learned a few other languages along the way. But I got into technical sales and marketing in the supercomputer industry, and I didn't do any coding for decades. And now, really, only thanks to AI, I'm able to code again, because I'd never studied Python. I didn't know it. I mean, I can read it. It's just another form of code, and it doesn't look that different from other codes. But the problem with these things is, well, you have to know all the libraries and the formatting. It's kind of the tedious side of it, in terms of getting all the naming of structures and knowing which libraries to call and so forth. And so it's been very useful to use AI to generate the code and even learn how to read it better. And even as a sounding board for the model, gee, what if we did this? What do you think? You can use it as an intern or a research assistant. And the quality of the coding has increased really incredibly over the past year, the leap to 5.2. When I first started with it, with 4.0, mostly ChatGPT, I had to iterate so much to get it to do right, and to fix error and the next error and the debugging. And now sometimes it will just generate the right code right away. And other times, not so much. But it's incredible how much it's advanced and how useful it is. So I love it, and it allows me to do these things and to produce some very nice charts that I wouldn't have known how to do, or that would have taken me weeks. So I've learned how to use that, as a research assistant more and more.
I couldn't do all the things that I'm doing right now without AI. It's almost like, and I think you also use ChatGPT a lot. I also use ChatGPT as mostly. I do always think around with Gemini and Grok and other ones, but like I keep coming back to ChatGPT as my main anchor. But it is so interesting how 3 years ago I wasn't even aware of it, and now if it doesn't work, a lot of my workflows and a lot of the things that I do, I would need to figure out how to do it again. It's like completely disrupts my workflow. Like it became a very strong part of my professional life mostly. I know a lot of people also use it for private life. Like I use it less for private life. I mean, health things sometimes, like health advice, and like if I break my ankle or something like that, like how does the foot look and stuff like that. But like I mostly use it for professional and less private reasons. The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With micro seed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because MicroSeed is not selling the washer. MicroSeed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.